So now that we're through most of the drums, I want to move on to the tom-toms and the drum room tracks and show you how I go about processing those. So let's start with the toms right here. What I like to do is ride each individual tom hit up and down with the volume automation in Pro Tools, as you can see here. By using the Pro Tools breakpoint automation, you can surgically go in and ride each individual tom and leave a certain amount of bleed, which can be beneficial in certain situations. I find a lot of engineers like to go in and just remove the waveform like this, leaving only the tom hit. It gives you a really unnatural sound that way, and the bleed from the drums and the cymbals come crashing in at the time that the waveform comes back. You can put fades up and down, but I'd much rather do it this way. Here I have an SSL plugin on, and I will put a little bit of expander on, about 6 dB down, so it lets some of the bleed through, so you still have a natural sounding kit. You can see here if I turn it all the way up, but I bring it down and let some bleed through. I also have a little bit of compression on, some high-end, about 3 dB of an 8K shelf, and about 3 dB about 4K. Now that's going to vary greatly upon the microphone choice and the tuning of the tom-tom and size of the tom-tom. A good place to start most of the time for me is by just adding a little 8K here and a little bit of 4K. And, use the expander down about 6 dB, let some bleed through. So in this kit, there's only one floor tom, but in a lot of cases, if you're doing a rock record, there can be a lot of tom-toms, especially with the larger toms, like floors. They can ring throughout the song and make havoc on the low end of your mix and need to be dealt with. Again, I'm using the expander on the SSL channel strip. Now, there is still some bleed coming through, so you can go in to the volume automation breakpoint line and just bring it up or down to get rid of the bleed as you like and ride each individual tom hit up like this. Doing it by drawing in volume automation also gives you the capability to change the length of the drum, the ring of the drum. So really, that's how I process toms. Now, I rarely trigger toms, only if it's a situation where it was really recorded poorly and just cannot do anything with the sound. I will go in and trigger toms in the same way I triggered the kick and the snare drum. Let's move on to the drum room tracks now. This is a mono track. There's one waveform. This was recorded in the drummer's living room. But you can see here, the meters are stereo. So it's a mono waveform, a mono track, but I'm making it stereo using some plugins. The way I'm doing it on this track is with this stereo delay. I have a little bit of delay on both sides, which splits the signal. Let's listen. And this is just a very simple stereo delay. You can use other plugins like this stereo width plugin. Takes a mono signal and makes it wider. Either plugin would get you the same results. You have to be careful about the phasing, though. As you can hear, it is kind of phasey sounding, but it can be adjusted, I think, more with the stereo delay plugin. Since the drum tracks were recorded in a small room, the drummer's living room, I'm adding some room reverb to it with this send. making it sound larger than it really is. You can hear how by adding a little bit more room reverb to the room track, it sounds larger. Let's move on to the next plugin. This is my favorite one on drum rooms. This is a multi-band compressor expander noise gate from Mac DSP. And you can go in and adjust each band of the expander or gate to open and close by the individual threshold adjustments on each band. This enables me to make the room track open and close on certain frequencies. Now, most of the time, I don't want the room to open on, say, the hi-hat and just on the kick and snare. That makes the room sound really explode and make it sound really dynamic. Let's take a listen. You can check out here how the kick was only opening mainly on the kick and snare hit, leaving out the hi-hat and the cymbals. I do that by adjusting this upper mid threshold band right there. Let's check it out. You can see here how I can adjust the threshold so it only opens on the snare hit, more or less. That works really well. It sort of makes the room track explode when the drums are hit. Makes them really dynamic. Let's go listen to it with the drum kits soloed. Let me find the drum tracks here, solo them up, and listen to the drum room blended in to the rest of the drums. So there you have it. Really makes an enormous difference. That's how I took this mono drum room track, turned it into stereo, made it larger by adding a little bit more room reverb, then added this multi-band expander compressor plugin by Mac DSP. Really tightens up the overall drum room and makes it explode out of the track. And again, it's really a mono drum track. Now, this can be done with stereo tracks also. That multi-band compressor makes a huge difference. I just want to touch upon a little bit about parallel compression on the drum bus. Now, I don't use this all the time. I just wanted to demonstrate it to you because a lot of people do use it. Basically, taking another aux track, sending all the drums to it from the drum master bus, putting a compressor on it, and just slamming the compression. Really fast attack, really fast release, and bleeding this into the rest of the drum mix can really give the kit a very anchored and solid sound in the mix. Let me demonstrate this a little bit for you. Now, it was very subtle until I brought the volume of it up into the mix. Now, you can use any compressor you want, even multiple compressors to get more of a drastic sound. Now, keep in mind, you also can EQ that track a little too. Now, parallel compression can also be used on different sources, such as background vocals or even guitar buses. But you really must keep in mind to have the delay compensation on when using this technique. So, that's pretty much it for the drum section of this video. Let's move on next to the bass guitar